Call this meeting to order. We have 5:30. Today is Thursday, June 9th, 2016, and this is the Parks, Recreation, and Forestry Committee meeting. Right away, we'll start with item number 1, which is the approval of last month's minutes.
So moved.
I'll second.
Got a motion by Tom, second by Jane. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. On to item 2, public comment. We see nobody here from the public, which gets us right to item 3, old business. I'm going to hand this over to Justin. This has to do with our corp plan and our review of the parks as we were doing towards the end of last season.
Thanks, John. This is just a continuation from last year. We have 3 smaller parks in front of you. We'll kind of take them one by one. We'll start with the first one, which is Connor Park. Connor Park is more of a natural area located on Blodgett Street. It's about 5.6 acres in size. There's not much at the park right now. It's mostly wooded area with lowlands. We have a picnic table there, a garbage can, and some trails. I think originally that park was given to the city or donated to the city in some capacity, and it was supposed to be natural, but I think some of the neighbors wanted to see some walking paths, so we put some walking paths in the park at some point. We added a picnic table and added a sign and of course a garbage can, so now we have people going in there. So one of our challenges is it's not really a heavily maintained park, so Ben and his crew don't go down there on a daily basis, and when you do a drive-by, all you see is woods. So a lot of times we'll have down timber, down trees across those trails and stuff failing in the park. We just don't get in there, and there's not a ton of people, so we don't get in there as much as we'd like, and I don't think there's a really huge need to improve that area because it is supposed to be just a natural area. Our biggest challenge is we are inviting the public into the park by having the picnic tables, the sign, the garbage can. So we do need to get in there on probably a more regular basis, a couple times a year, to make sure no trees are across the path. Or rely on our park users to let us know, which has happened before, where they call us up and said, hey, there's a tree across the path, and we go in and remove it. I'll turn it over to you guys. Maybe we'll talk about Connor Park first, if you guys have any comments or suggestions.
Just,
Go ahead, Tom.
was Ally?
Nope.
Oh, okay. I'll be the naysayer. I'm the one that pushed, and I'm not saying get rid of this, but I'm the one that pushed to not have as many skating rinks as there was years ago because they weren't used. But I guess I would like to know, and I don't know how you could track this, but I'd like to know places like this. I mean, I wouldn't want to stick a lot of money in it probably either if it's not being used a lot. If it's a trail, fine. But I think if people are wanting more, I'm not sure we're able to give more at this time.
Ellie?
We have used the park, our own family,
Okay.
but again, it's for like in the winter to try out snowshoes because it's a nice little small loop that little beaners can handle. I think some of that park changed a little bit when the hunting laws changed in town, because next to that park, it's owned by a construction company, I believe,
Like stock.
Woodstock.
Woodstock.
So I know like now that he can use that area for hunting, which before he would open up the back of that park and you could go through his property all the way and get out over by, what's like Bluebird and other ones. But since the hunting laws, his concern for public safety is I don't want people traipsing on it, you can go now, but now you can't. So the no trespassing signs went up, which I think is smart anyways, for himself. So I agree that we shouldn't invest a lot of money in it. If you wanted to talk to like the neighboring schools, if they use it, I mean, Madison's right there, the high school's right there, but they also have their own forestry area in their acreage as well. So I don't think it's a highly used park. When we drive by it, I think 1 in 50 times somebody is there, sitting at the picnic table or resting or something.
And why, do you have any opinion of why you think that is? Is it the location? I mean, because it really is the only park on the east side, right? I mean, in that area.
There's nothing there. I mean,
Okay.
there's one small circle loop.
Yep.
It's a great thing to be a neighbor to.
Yep.
If I was, if I lived right against that property, I'd love it. My
Yep.
kids, you can go through and have your own little fort and woods to play in, but,
Okay. And that loop is, how long is it? It's like a quarter mile?
I can see all
half
the way
mile?
around it.
Oh, okay, yeah. So really small?
Yeah.
Okay. I was gonna suggest maybe getting the Friends of the Trails to come in there and clean it up and,
It's
see if there's any
gravel and
enhancements. Yeah.
probably wood chips
Yeah.
combination
Yeah.
in different areas. It's
And
a real,
grass.
and grass and whatever else. And
Yeah.
it's a small, narrow part. It's just primarily, I think it was neighbors who really wanted to just create a natural walking trail. And there's only 5.6 miles. It's really low land. It's not very buildable. So it'd be tough to kind of put anything
Mhm.
of substance there, but it's actually perfect for the neighborhood.
Well, the current corp didn't recommend a lot of changes to begin with,
Right.
from what I could tell. I mean, there were $10,000 recommended for, to upgrade and maintain trails, and then there was a forestry allowance, I can imagine, just to clear trees and maintain that type of wood area. So it's not like we're recommending in the corp that we do major changes there.
I'm happy that you mentioned that, Ellie, because I mean, I just go by that and geez, I don't see anybody. I mean, it was nice to know that your family was using it, and certainly if people are using it more, and I realize that, John, that we're not talking a lot of money, but I hate to spread things out too much, when we could stick money in a more heavily used park, but I think you guys are on the right track, that you're not doing a whole lot to it, the basics, but when you start adding picnic tables and then more, and then they expect more, if we would just designate it pretty much that this is what the plans are for it, that we don't see putting a bunch of playground equipment there and stuff like that, because, it's really not set up for that.
Okay. Can we move on?
Let's move on to Stroman Park, which is just right out here outside where we're sitting today. It's a small, kind of, I would call it a memorial type park. Doesn't really have much, just some more site furnishing, a little water pool, ponding area. I believe with the sale of City Hall and the purchase of Ford Financial, Tom or Rich, you guys were aware of, so you have a part of those discussions. I believe that park will stay as is in the future, correct? It really won't change, right? There was no discussion about moving that or relocating it. So right now, it's being maintained by the individual who maintains the property here. So he goes over and maintains it and takes care of it. We don't have too much work there. Once in a while, maybe if there's assistance needed, but for the most part, we're pretty hands-off on it.
The fire department guys, do they do stuff with the pond, or the pond, I guess you.
Yeah, we usually empty it in the spring and fall, and they do a cleanup day in the spring and the fall.
So there's not a whole lot spent there, right? I think it looks nice out here,
There is a Mesh Burners used to help maintain the landscape beds. He's correct, the maintenance man on the property here mows the lawn and does the sidewalk removal.
Okay. Not a lot recommended for this park either.
Right.
In the corp. Does anybody have any comments or questions, discussion? Okay.
All right, now let's move on to the next one, which is, I think it's Proshek, right? Proshek? Waste, Prashek? Oh,
I've lived here my whole life. I call it Prashek.
We call it fresh up.
Oh, and I've even used to live that way.
Maybe you're right.
All right.
let's talk about the wayside. No, the wayside is, of course, kind of on the entrance of the city on the south side, right across the street from Wildwood Park and Zoo. It's kind of home to the Alamo Club that's over there, that building that we lease out to that group. For the most part, we don't do a lot of maintenance. We have our mowing contractor go in there and do most of the mowing. I think we have snow plowing is contracted too, where they plow there, but for the most part, there's nothing much there besides it being a natural area with some trees and grass and the Animal Club. So once again, the court plan doesn't call for a lot. It talks about rebuilding the driveway, the road, and we will have to eventually get to that sooner than later. It's kind of falling apart right now. So I'm guessing probably in the next 5 years, we need to get that replaced.
How much is that used for camping now? Is there,
There's no camping.
Is that fairgrounds?
There's
No.
nothing, that camping's been gone for
Years.
20 years. I mean, it's been gone for a
Interesting.
while. Figgy's bought part of that property to expand their business, and that's when camping went down to the fairgrounds.
So really, the only use right now is, it's a green space and that the club that's there, that you lease
Yeah,
out.
And the Legion is also in this property. If you look at that photo, it's both the Al-Anon Club and the Legion. That Legion building is leased out to the Legion for $1 a year or 10 years. There's some kind of a lease on that Legion Club. But that is also in, the Legion
The
is,
building is owned by the Legion, the property, I believe, is owned by the city. And Kelly's correct.
yeah, but I think that building is the city's, and they
Could be-
lease it
that could be
from,
as well.
they lease it like the Al-Anon
Yeah.
Club does.
And do they
So-
share that driveway back there? I know at one time it used to be a through road.
And there's not a through road.
Closed that
Yeah.
3 years ago, maybe?
Right.
4
Yeah.
years ago?
Okay.
But sometimes when you come off of, what street is that? It's all plowed. But does that go around in the backside? What?
The
Legion
the Legion plows
Oh,
around that building and their parking
that-
lot.
Okay.
There's kind of a map on the next one if you, and it
When
shows that,
I
we
go
just,
past them, I'm like, who's plowing that road? Because it wasn't a through road, so that would make
Yeah,
sense.
the Legion,
Okay.
the Legion does that.
the horseshoe, we plow the horseshoe, and then on the backside, we do the plowing, right?
We do the sidewalk on Maple and the
Yep.
sidewalk on Central. And we contract out the loop.
Yeah.
John, I got a comment about, and Justin and I have talked about this, like the squared, that the old News Herald site, and some of these items that we're talking about. How did you pronounce it? Project.
We're gonna call it project because I'm way outvoted.
Yeah, yeah. And I want to make sure I call it the right way so I don't get in trouble. But, some of these, and I don't know how we do it, but I don't think they should be classified as parks. They're not, they're really not. I mean, this one, the one by Figgy's, is not, there's nothing there that's being used by the city. The square is it was more for a downtown development. Hardiker Park is another great park, but I don't consider those parks. I would like to differentiate between those of what your department not only maintains, but, like if it's a downtown enhancement, that's great. But we always get thrown it in the bunch here, and, we're still talking about maintenance on some of these. Hopefully, we're gonna get it worked out, so your department doesn't.
Well, $127,000 for parking lot, for a drive-through. That really, it is not used as a park.
Well, and that's my point, is any suggestions, I don't wanna get you in trouble, Justin, but I really think
so
somehow.
that's tough, every community's different, but most communities, when you have a natural area that fits the definition of a park, whether it's Hardacre, Stroman, or the Wayside, usually falls under the Parks and Recs Authority. It's just makes sense because that's what we do. We usually maintain the turf areas and the trees and the vegetation and the snow plowing removal. Some are more maintenance, some are less maintenance, and it's not uncommon to have to be Parks Department getting assigned natural areas that over time morph into semi-park looking places.
I just don't think they fit the mission, you talk about some of the other ones, even the one on Blodgett where we're talking about, at least there's a trail in there, so it's some sort of exercise type of thing. That's how I consider parks. Again, nothing against these downtown. I'm all for the square, and the Hardiker Park is beautiful, but I don't consider those parks. Those are downtown enhancement areas, I think, and I just think, I don't know how Rich feels, but I just think they should be different somehow. Not that we throw a lot of dollars at some of these, but it's still out of your budget, and
This one, we are gonna throw some
yeah,
dollars.
right.
at.
Yeah.
It's something maybe that can be addressed in the future. Rich?
Yeah, I know what you're saying, Tom. I look at it, it's, I don't want to get too lost in the minutia, I guess, of it. Because then my question would be, okay, well then what are we going to call these areas? And I think Parks and Rec, ultimately, it's going to fall under their, no matter what we call it, it's going to fall under your guys' responsibility to take care of these natural areas. Unless you, lot it off and sell it completely. I think it's, I know what you're saying, but a park is different to I think for a lot of people what they consider a park. Yeah, I'm the same way. I would never consider that a park, but it's a public area where people could gather. Yeah.
Does anybody else ever, you said they lease out the one building that's on the, or well, there's
I
two
think both of
with.
those buildings are. Al-Anon Club leases out the one and Legion leases out the other.
They are responsible for leasing out those buildings,
No,
not you.
no, the
Or-
city,
the
the lease,
city-
the lease just happened a couple years
Yes.
ago with Legion.
Yes.
That's
Oh.
why and I didn't know that was how it was done before that. But they like put money into the building and do the upkeep of the building, but they lease it out from the city for like $1.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's a year, if it's a 10-year period, I don't know, but that's, both
5
of
or
those
10.
buildings are the same way. I mean, we
And
probably
those
could.
buildings can be used by other groups. Like, I'm just saying, like, if somebody wants to come in and use the Legion building, they have to contact the Legion.
Right.
Same with the other.
Correct, that Al-Anon Club as well.
Okay.
So that's where I'm going, Rich, on this. How does that park?
Well, I'm seeing in the corner up here, I'm seeing a really nice area for a pool, right up over here.
Okay. Yeah,
I'm
okay.
seeing a relocation happening here.
That's a
across-
puddle. That's a puddle.
Across the street, I see a relocation to this area and utilize it, yeah.
Thanks, guys. I think we can move on. Are we done with the corp review?
I think so.
Okay, all right, thanks. Thank you, Justin. We're on to item number 4, which is new business. Item A is the community center.
Last month, I handed out kind of FAQs, questions we tried to answer going forward into the community center on how it was going to be kind of operated and more policy and procedural type questions. In addition, you had a chance to see the last version of the floor plan, the upper level and the lower level. For the most part, I wanted to give you this information just to make sure you guys feel comfortable with what has been stated in there, the design of the building, and kind of the direction staff and city staff are going, and see if you guys see there's any issues or potential issues or things we need to talk about. For the most part, I don't expect you to comment too much on the floor plan of whether this room should be there or this color or that. But if you do see anything like, hey, why is this there, feel free to ask so we can kind of get ahead of it. The questions is kind of what my focus was, because I know the council and some people were wondering how the building was going to actually be operated and how it's going to be treated differently than the library and differently than maybe some of our other buildings like Oak Avenue Community Center or Wildwood Station. So at this time, I'll just open it up for you guys to have discussions or ask us any questions.
On the design? Or
You-
on anything?
Anything.
Well, let's just start with the design. Does anybody have any questions on that, Ellie?
Okay. Well, we know it's not necessarily going to be remodeled, correct?
It'll be remodeled.
It will be?
Well,
That's-
if funding's approved, it'll be remodeled, yes.
Okay, if
The
funding-
plan is to be remodeled, yeah.
Okay. So I just know that the room in this corner gets used a lot for different group meetings. And are you just saying that with the addition of these 2 conference meetings, or are there 4, it was just hard to tell on my printout. Are there
It's not
4
easy to
conference
read.
rooms? How many conference rooms are in,
If you look
The
at the,
top
if you look at the middle, red,
those are all? I see
those
arts
are,
and crafts,
arts and crafts would be
billiards.
one for some arts and crafts. Above that is a billiards room, so that would primarily be used for billiards activities. But to the left, there's 2 rooms with a divider that you can use, and then a larger group fitness studio. And then over to the left, on the left side right here,
Small conference
is
room,
another small conference room. So
okay.
that room that's used a lot will probably be storage for all of the tables and chairs that'll go into here.
Gotcha.
And then that other activities will just be put here. Plus, we have the BB form room, which will be also divided downstairs and a downstairs level. So that'll be secured with walls. Right now, it's open,
Right.
so now we're gonna put a wall up so you can reserve it.
Oh, okay.
So we're adding quite a few.
Quite a few conference
Quite a few
rooms.
different types of rooms. Conference rooms or just multi-purpose rooms or meeting rooms or however you wanna, there'll be, like this room, if you wanted to make this, you wanna have a mommy and me gymnastics class, we could just take all the tables and chairs and then you can do
Right.
that class, then you have a meeting later on, you bring the tables and chairs out
Gotcha.
to set up. So more of a multi-purpose type
Awesome.
rooms.
Perfect, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions on the design? How about, we can move on to the, I think we call them FAQs. In really that address the operation of the building. Any questions on that or discussion?
Just a comment, I think that's very well done. I think that solves a lot of the questions that people have about the usage of the building, and I just thought, going through that all, I thought that just describes a lot, It takes a lot of rumors away, I think. I just thought it was well done.
Just to follow up on that comment that Tom made, we had a tour of the current library for a potential space for future council chambers. And there was a few senior citizens there that were asking some of these same questions. And we weren't there to really talk about the community center. We're just there to kind of give a tour of what potentially could be a council chambers. And they were asking some tough questions where we didn't have answers. So we took some of those questions that we had and put them on paper and thought about them, what made sense. Because ultimately, we had a senior center that was removed, and the seniors moved to the mall, and we said they'd be moving into the new community center at a later place, but that won't be as what you knew before. We're going to be bringing in other people and other users. It's gonna be more of a community center, so everyone's gonna be there. Well, the seniors wanted to make sure they still had a place to go, still had a stake in the game. They still wanted to be involved, so I formed this for the seniors so they could kind of see what we have, and then what we can use going forward, so the balance between the seniors and our community perspective. So we want to ensure the seniors are definitely going to have a place and a role in the community center, but there's also going to be availability for anyone in the community to use the building.
Okay. So, can we talk a little bit about fees?
Sure.
Okay, so can we compare what we do now with the library and the space that we have in the library and what we're looking at in the future for the new community center? Can we,
So what the current library
Yep.
has, they have the BB form room, which is downstairs, and then the room that Ally just mentioned over to the side. Those are the two rooms that kind of allow community groups to use. The library does not charge for usage of those rooms, to my knowledge.
We do not.
And there'll be kind of a different shift in mindset of whether or not we will allow those same groups or other groups in the community to use all of these rooms. It is my impression and my understanding that there will be a fee associated with the groups, and it might be a varying fee depending on who you are and who you represent and what the nature of your activity might be in those rooms. At this point, we don't have any numbers associated with those rooms. We kind of wanted to get the floor plan done, get a cost estimate, and get the blessing of the council before we start kind of spending time on fees and charges, because ultimately, if costs are not what they should be, we may be having to adjust some things, and that may affect whether or not we charge $13 for one room or whether we charge $130 for one room.
So I do see, I think it's worth pointing out that nonprofit civic groups will not be assessed a fee. But their use will be limited, and so I think specifically mentioned is Kiwanis, Rotary, Girl Scouts, Boy Scouts, Lions, et cetera, those types of civic groups. But that nonprofits and other government organizations will be charged a reduced rate. So it sounds like we do have to come with a fee schedule for it, what I don't want to happen is again to have these constant requests coming to this committee for, hey, can we get a reduced rate, or we should have that kind of defined, and that's really my only concern with that whole statement. Not that we shouldn't be charging fees, because I think it's completely appropriate, especially considering the use of other city facilities. We're charging fees, and this is going to be a city facility.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. That's
Yep.
that's a challenge that we face as staff when we get requests, and they'll go to Kelly, Ben, or I, depending who they may or may not know.
Whoever's
And-
in the best mood.
Whoever they feel the most comfortable approaching, and they'll be like, hey, can I use Wildwood Station for free? And can I use this for free? I gotta use that for free. And oh, by the way, now it's a weekend, and now it's all day, and I need a little bit more. And you're like, well, you're taking advantage of our relationship, really, because we were friends, and now you're kind of making it my job uncomfortable. So I would really like to, if it was me, it'd be a flat fee applied to everyone, no matter who you are, what you are. You just pay the fee, and it's a nominal fee. It's affordable to most groups. That's the way I prefer it, but sometimes it's not always the case, so.
And I agree with you, John. On that too, the policy, whenever it's set, I'm hoping that those decisions, it'll be rigid or spelled out enough that you and your staff can determine that, because it's on policy and you don't have to come to us. We don't want people coming to this committee to try to go around you guys. So, we want a policy that you guys are just going by the policy, and it's all covered in there, and treating everybody pretty much alike, so.
Rich? Yeah, I don't know if I like the idea of having a fee and then but if you're this, it's a reduced fee. I mean, I kind of agree with you, Justin. If we could streamline that a little bit, it's going to eliminate all of the, okay, so they're reduced, but we're not, and they have it for free, so I mean, I would rather see it if you had the certain groups, like it's listed, the nonprofit civic groups that were free, and then everyone else was this fee. Rather than, okay, well, this specific group, that's a reduced fee, this is regular. That's just that'd be just my input.
I think that's a good suggestion. But, it's something that we'll have to.
Some of our bigger challenges are like the Lions Club, or like a Boys and Girls Scout or Boy Scout troop or Girl Scout troop, is when they just want to come in for like an hour and a half and have a meeting, and then you're charging them, and they have a meeting once a month, and these groups a lot of times don't have any money or very little money, and you charge them, but then you have like a private organization, I don't know, like a Rail, for example, even though they have more meeting space than they need, but if they come in and say, hey, I want to use it, it shouldn't be the same, so. Those are our tough ones, are these small, I'd say family type groups that come in and try to use our facilities, and we end up charging them a fee that's quite high for their group.
Yeah, so I think as long as it's defined and the guidelines are there, I think that'll limit people coming to us for no or reduced fees, so we appreciate that. Okay, any other questions? So there is a recommended action on this, that we approve the new zoo maintenance building concept, and I'm sorry, and the procedure, to recommend.
He's getting out of here early.
Whoa.
He's leaving early.
Probably a half hour ahead. The community center design and procedural and policy questions and answers as presented. So I would entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Okay, motion by Ellie, second by Jane, to basically accept the community center design and the procedural and policy questions and answers as they were presented. Any other questions or discussion on this? Okay, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Then that motion carries.
Just so you guys know that once those fees, we kind of get working on them, the groundwork, we'll bring them back for the committee to get clarification on what we just kind of talked about. And then we'll kind of rehash this again, probably sometime, maybe even later this year, early part of 17.
And they may even have to be tweaked, after the first year, when you learn more about it. I don't think that would necessarily be uncommon, but you'd get to a good place and,
Well, the other thing I would hope that just for office questions and things, we can mimic similar to what we do at Wildwood Station, that those nonprofit groups, during the daytime can pay half the fee of what the room is. I mean, some of those things that it just, if you have a whole another set, now it's, oh my gosh, now which building am I talking about? So to at least look at some of those similar things that we have.
Yeah, otherwise you're going to need a flow chart.
Do we go out 2 years? Do we go out 1 year? How many years do we go out in advance? So
Design an app for that?
Yeah, we could do that.
design some good songs.
All right, I think we can move on to the item B in new business, which is the zoo maintenance building, which I tried to jump ahead to. So Justin.
Thank you. As you guys know, that we've been designing and working on our zoo maintenance building, which is going to be located just to the west of the Ludwig building. Currently, Steve and his staff work out of the Ludwig building, the Cougar exhibit, the Bear exhibit, and the Hay Barn. They have various equipment and supplies and materials in all those buildings, so they kind of jump back and forth. The goal of the new maintenance building is to put it all under one roof, so it will increase efficiency, it'll streamline things, it'll kind of make it a one-stop shop for visitors. So if you're coming to the zoo and you kind of want to find someone, you should just go to the maintenance building, because most likely you'll find this individual there. If you can't find them there, most likely you'll be feeding animals. Right now, he or she could be any one of our buildings inside and you're not aware of it. So that's the goal of the actual building. In the process of moving Steve and his staff's operation into this building, we will be vacating the Cougar building, so Steve won't be inside that building for any need at this point, except for feeding the Cougar. Our goal then is to kind of create that into kind of a welcome center, which will have ADA accessible restrooms that are more accessible and more not as pungent. a little.
They don't smell like the bears.
They won't smell like the bears. And maybe a zoo store for the Zoological Society, so they can sell their merchandise and help with the fundraising for the actual zoo. And probably the most important and the most critical is the improvement of the cougar exhibit itself. If you're down there and you see the cougars, they're primarily only on concrete. And we don't want animals only on concrete. We want to get them on some natural surface. So there's been some discussion between Steve, Ben, and I about flipping the cougar exhibit and putting it on the other side and making it more natural. Designing it where the cougars can somehow be incorporated into the building, so you have more of a close interaction with them, whether it's through thick glass or some capacity, and then incorporating it somehow into the zoo store. We started doing that this year with the bee exhibit, which is pretty neat, and we're hoping to do that next year not next year, but whenever this is done in the future. So the zoo maintenance building we're talking about, it's kind of a domino effect. Once this one falls, then we can start making the next one fall. So it's important that we get this finalized. And some of the delays on this is stuff that's out of our control. We have to get a CSM, which is a certified survey map, completed. And a lot of the properties in Wildwood Park are really old. So it's hard to find deeds and all that information. Plus, we have to get all the utilities over to that location. So that's kind of been a delay. For the most part, what you see in front of you is what the building will look like. I won't go into all the detail, but for the most part, we're trying to match that building with what the other buildings are down there and what the Wildwood Station looks like. Plus, we're trying to use materials that are long-term and sustaining. So we have a block on the bottom, which will help for any dings or vehicles or people run into the building, they won't dent. Plus, we're using like a hardy plank type, not a hardy plank, what do you call that siding, Ben? Just a composite type siding that's just long-term. It's already painted, you don't have to paint it. It just will stay that color forever. We're looking at steel roof, but we don't know if we can afford steel roofing, but we're hoping to get steel roofing too, so we never have to maintain that building in my lifetime, or preferably the next zookeeper's lifetime either, so.
Exciting. I think it's very attractive.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can I ask what the total budget is for the building?
We have not got the cost estimate now. We are budgeted for the building $350,000. I'm gonna guess probably half, 50,000 of that, around 50,000 will go towards design and other things. We're doing, what is it when you look up deeds? You have to go and do a title research. We have to pay a company to do title research because the actual building's going on the property line, and our development services don't want you to do that, so we have to rezone it. So, and we're getting just utility extensions. It's costing more than we wanted. It's like $10,000 for design, $10,000 for site plan and utility extensions, and probably another $5,000 for some other things. So we're close to $25,000 before we know it. And so we're figuring the building we're hoping to cost about $300,000, but we still haven't had budget analysis done because we haven't got the utilities over there. So we got to know where to start from and where we're ending, and what it's going to cost to go from point A to point B. So that's going to be the cost also.
And I'm hoping that, that you mentioned like a steel roof and the components you have for siding. I'm hoping that we are able to afford that, because actually if you go cheaper, you're gonna pay it later. The roof isn't gonna last as long, so, I'm hoping that we can do it with what you're asking for, to do it right the first time, you know, and it does save you money in the long term, but it still is dollars, so.
It's always cheaper to do it more expensive today because everything gets more expensive down the road. And people are reluctant to maintain things at the level they should because a lot of times we're forced into low bids and things of that nature. So I'd rather have us do the legwork and make sure we put the best foot forward.
Okay. Any other questions about concept and design at all? Okay. Great. I think this is a long time coming. Ben's probably getting pretty excited about this.
Yeah, we've been talking about it for a while, so
Yeah.
it's good.
So I'd like to, I would entertain a motion to approve the new zoo maintenance building concept and design. Motion by Tom, second by Rich. It was a tie, second by Rich. Any other discussion or questions? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
You can have the first.
Motion
you can have the
carries.
motion if you want.
Thank you, Justin. Okay, we're on to item 5, which is the reports. And start with Tom, the zoological.
Greasy.
Greasy Park. I'm off it tonight.
There's no
Yeah,
basketball.
I got stuff going on. Stuff going on. Sorry about that. Greasy Park, I'm sorry.
All right, you guys are well aware of Greasy Park and its importance of our community. It's the home of all of our soccer groups, the public school, the private school, our soccer association, our park and rec programs. Everybody plays their games there. The soccer association and the high school coaches have an interest in putting a press box there in the middle of the field, which is Figgy Field. And it'll be 10 foot deep by 22 feet wide. So it'll be enough to accommodate both sets of coaches and an announcer during the games. It'll go in between the 2 player shelters, and it'll be privately fundraised and paid for by donations from either groups or the schools themselves. So the Soccer Association has been taking the lead on it, been working with Ben closely on the design, and we're hoping to get it complete this fall. We would like to meet with our neighbors that are right behind it, so they're aware of what's going on, because it's kind of a bigger structure, if you will. It's only 10 by 22, but it's a 2-story structure. So they're aware of what's going on, and they know what it's going to look like, and they feel comfortable with it. But the good thing is it's being dictated by the actual user groups, the soccer players, the soccer coaches, and the Marshfield Soccer Association.
Tom?
I'm a little embarrassed to say this, but I can't say I've ever been for an entire soccer game. Well, but the and I know it says, but they will not be announcing over the PA system. What is the difference between not announcing over the PA system and what you say here, just other than what is currently done? So,
It's a good question.
you know, and I know the reason why, and that's why you want to meet with neighbors and stuff, you know, but.
Kelly, whose children have all played
Yeah.
varsity soccer, can I explain
The only thing
what
soccer
they
does
do?
is when they score a goal, they'll announce goal was scored in so many minutes and assisted by and scored by. I mean, that comes over the PA system, but what Justin's talking about here is if a radio announcer wants to broadcast a game, they're not doing it over the PA system. It's just within their system. Right. But that's what, I think there's been some concern about the announcement of games, and I think their thought is that this hour and 30-minute game is going to be loudspeaker the whole time. And really, that's the only thing you hear, and you hear it now. They announce now who scored it, what it was scored at. You know, it's a very short period. And you hear them count down the clock at 10 seconds, both halftime and full.
Within reason, I don't want to be able to limit you to things just exactly what you're saying, and it's not going to limit that.
There's not a play-by-play.
Just not a play-by-play, okay.
No.
Basketball or even football or even baseball, where there's a lot more announcing in those games, because there's a lot more scoring going on. You know, if soccer games were like 22 to 25, that might be more of an issue, but since there's
Yeah.
limited scoring in soccer,
I
it's,
just wanted you to be able to do those types of things anyway, you know, if it was a deal where it was later at night, that's one thing, but it's really not, so, good.
There's no lights at the field either, so
Yeah.
most of the activity we do, there's no parking near the pole.
So does this fit aesthetically with the park? What type of material and?
We'll be blending it in. Once again, we'll be using like a composite siding material, probably a shingled roof to match the other shingled roofs that are over there. Color and look and feel will match the other structures in the park.
Yep. Cool. Be a nice addition. Any other questions? Yeah. And I mean, a comment, it's really great to be working with these types of groups. And I think that park is a really good example of some of these groups working with the city, Parks Department and Rec Department. It's fantastic. And we just had put in the shelter for the players, right? And that's been a big success after talking about it for a year. And I think
Yeah.
these kinds of things in the future are going to be great. So I would entertain a motion to approve the new Greasy Park Press Box building concept and design.
I'll make a motion to approve it.
Ally made the motion
I'll second.
and Jane seconds. Thank you. Any more discussion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. All right, we are now on to the report section. I'm not going to jump ahead again, I promise. Tom?
Yes, sir. The big news is, I'm sure I mentioned it last time as well, but Zoo Fest is coming up, June 18th, Father's Day Saturday, from 11 until 2. It's $5 per family, yet I don't think, it may have been that when Jane was involved, which was probably only a year or two ago, but. Yeah, but great event. It's another fun thing for youth and families, family events in Marshfield. People can afford to do that. If that's all you want to spend, that's all you have to spend to have hay rides, bouncy houses, clowns, face painting, games. Fire engine's going to be there, and what they do in the past is they actually have a pumper truck and they set up a little target, and the kids can take the hoses and shoot at the targets, and they just, I don't know, blast is sort of a little pun or something, but it is a blast of water that they hit the targets with. Police car, and if you want concessions, of course, you'll have to pay for that, and the only other thing you got to pay for is to dunk somebody. I think some of the people in this committee would be great in the dunk tank, by the way. And we can raise, I know everybody's out of town. Yes, yeah, okay. But seriously, it's a great event. It's one of our bigger fundraisers. And all proceeds go right back to the zoo. Every penny we make ends up in your zoo. So looking forward to that. Kids really have a good time. Some of the other officers are always in charge of the weather. I am not, so. But between this one, trick-or-treating, and the zoo store, those are our big fundraisers. So hopefully people can make it. We're definitely putting the word out there to people that come in the store. We've handed flyers out. Abbotsford, 9 communities from Abbotsford to Pittsfield to Auburndale and so on and so forth. So every kid in those schools has flyers and they're excited about it. Marshfield's a little more difficulty. I know the Catholic schools we were able to get flyers to, but the people from town, it's out there as well, that when they come in the zoo store, we hand out flyers to them there. So great event, and just ask the people in the community and surrounding areas to support us. That's the big news that we got right now, so. Run walk, no. No, and actually Mackey's got us down there. Our Zoo Fest is 11 to 3, but they never contacted me on that, so I don't know where that came from, but it's 11 till 2. But if somebody wants to stay until 3, we'll take their money for that too.
I'll laugh. All right. Thank you, Tom. We're on to item B, which is recreation report.
You're busy. Things are underway. I talked a little bit last time that the Tennis Racquetball Center is now in their summer hours where they use the keypad. They just have to have the court paid for beforehand. This summer adventure camp was canceled due to the lack of enrollment for the month of June. We will see what July and August bring. Summer staff has been hired during the month of May for all of the summer programs. Pickleball is still going at Oak Ave. People prefer to play indoor versus outdoor. I have found that. And then staff training for most summer programs started May 19th. Most of the things, I know baseball programs, Three Sport Alley had said had started this week. Our tennis lessons and gymnastics will start next week. Aquatic staff training for Hefco Pool began on Monday, May 18th. The lifeguard skills all get checked, and that's done at the senior high pool on the 18th and 19th, and then all of the other training, May 31st through June 3rd, happened at Hefco Pool. And last Saturday was our first day of operation. We haven't been real busy except for this. Today was our first full day. I don't think we opened for free swim. I don't think it was warm enough, but the 1 o'clock we were up and going. So early bird lap swim and aqua size are still being held at senior high pool. And I just said today in a staff meeting, we will start our fall brochure June 27th. It has to be, the first round has to be to the printer. So we're already looking at fall stuff. Mm-hmm.
Any questions for Kelly? Hey, Kelly, I have one question. I noticed in the pamphlet that you have golf lessons for ladies in the summer, and for ladies and men in the spring, which I always miss because I'm on vacation. And I'm wondering, why do you do just ladies in the summer? Has there ever been a call for men too?
Just a men's class.
For men and, yeah, right.
No, I've had, the reason we started to do women's was we had several women saying, I don't want to take your spring lesson with a bunch of men watching me golf.
okay.
So the men really don't care if the women are involved. I mean, that's what we found. And more people would like that earlier kickoff than when we then do the women's a little bit later.
That makes sense. I just, the last 2 years I've missed it because I've been on vacation, so.
Don't take
Maybe next year.
vacation
I'm
at
gonna
that
stop
time.
taking vacation
Yeah.
next year. All
You
right.
could cut your salary as chairman for this meeting.
That means I'd have to pay you then. On to item C, Parks and Zoo. Ben?
We had a new event this year, AMS State Bow Fishing, that I think Justin talked about last month, but that went on. It was a great event. A lot of people turned out, 104 boats, I want to say.
Yep.
So it was good. Most of May and early June really gets devoted to getting Hefco Pool up and running, Dairy Fest, and then spring athletics. It's pretty much consumes the month. So long story short, that's what the guys have been doing a lot of. Forestry, the new seasonal forester started. He is right now updating our inventory. That was done in 2010 last. He should be done here within a week or so, and then we'll start moving on to making some lists of recommendations for removals and plantings and treatments. So that's going well.
Could we maybe, I met the gentleman, young man down at the zoo that you hired. Could he come maybe to a meeting sometime here to enlighten us? I mean, I've got questions about ash trees, like the treatments and some of these types of things, the injections and stuff. And I think it'd be interesting. I'd be interested. If nobody else is interested, I can set a time aside to talk to him myself. But I think the board, it might be a good thing for the board.
Why not? You can definitely see if he's available or willing or wanting to come. He is a young man. I mean, he is a college kid. He's still a college kid, so he might be rather limited. He's actually never officially did any injections. He's licensed, so we'll be his guinea pigs this year and see how he does. But I'll be willing to have him come in and speak on injections or different application
He
methods.
knows a lot more than we do on it, I think. So, it's,
Right.
to me, it'd be interesting. Thank you.
Down at the zoo, our USDA inspection occurred. No violations were reported, so that's good. The biggest news down there is we did lose Kiki. I don't know if you've seen the news release, but he passed. Sorry, he was 15 years old. Very good species. great animal. But that's about all I got. If anybody's got any questions.
Is there a plan to possibly replace Kiki?
We haven't discussed this at staff level yet. Steve has been off for about a month now with medical leave, family medical. So I
He had a baby.
Yeah, he had a baby.
Well, his wife did not. He didn't.
So he's coming back
Just
next
wanna make
week
sure it's
part time.
clear.
So we'll start those conversations when he returns.
Okay.
So
All right. Okay, any other questions? Discussion, all right. Item D, I'm not skipping Justin.
I want to give kudos to Ben and his field staff, but mostly his ball field staff. We've held sectionals here in town for softball, sectional finals for softball and baseball this week. It was interesting. I was going to Pick and Save yesterday about lunchtime, and then the crowd erupted out of nowhere. At Pick and Save, I'm like, why do I hear cheering in the middle of the afternoon? I'm like, oh yeah, we have sectional final. I think it was Eau Claire Memorial versus Hudson baseball game at Hackman Field. I mean, out of all the places they could have picked, they picked Marshfield, and our fields are very good. They're probably better than most communities in the area. We have very good fields for soccer and baseball and softball. So kudos to Ben and his staff. They do a bang-up job out there getting those ready. And also with Dairy Fest. I mean, Dairy Fest is, our department has quite an undertaking. We pretty much supply most of the stuff for Dairy Fest, and Ben has to run around for 3 or 4 days trying to get everything taken care of. So, moving on to my report, Hackman Field, just talked about it. We are putting a new amenity there, not amenity, but the storage building is being completed. They just put the concrete block up this week. It went up rather quick. They're hoping to get the roof and it all finalized within 2 weeks. They anticipate next week, but if rain comes in, it might delay them a little bit. But that's as of this afternoon. So the block is up and the roof is almost complete. They'll have it shingled and completed by next week. So contrary to what my report says, it's not Son Nikolai, it's Don Nikolai. Autocorrect. The zoo maintenance building, we just talked about it. I'm not going to really touch on that. Fairgrounds, we've still been doing strategic planning on what the direction of the fairgrounds is going to be. We're trying to hopefully improve communication and clarification, not only for the elected officials and employees, but also the general public, so they know kind of where to go and what to do. I've been sitting on the committee with Rich. We have another meeting coming up next week about the strategic planning. And the number one goal is to make the fair sustainable and profitable in the future to come. We're still working on getting someone in there to do some sandblasting of the grandstands. And also, the dog park will be moving forward with their lighting project. So they should start here probably before the end of the year, end of the month, on their lighting project. Historical Society has been interested in putting some more display information down at Wildwood Station. They're actually having an open house kind of invite on Engine 2442 in conjunction with Zoo Fest. Hopefully, Tom, they touch base with you and let you know. I told them it'd be kind of a hard sell to the Zoological Society to say you're part of Zoo Fest when you're so far away from Zoo Fest, but it'd still be good because Zoo Fest will be there and it'll be the park will be extremely busy.
And Josh came down the other day, and of course, we got this information rack in there, and I said, any information that they want, brochures, I mean, we can hand it out in the zoo store as they come down.
Right.
Because that is a neat display. Ben and Kelly may have remembered Jane when Keith Meacham came and gave a presentation. Were you here also? And the workings of that old train engine was very, very informative. So it's good. So no, we're very willing to help them any way we can.
And then last two is just the Hardacre Park, the painters there. He should be completing those murals sometime this summer. And then really there's no update on the Wildwood with Mill and Trail. We're still waiting to get cost estimates to the Board of Public Works for their approval. I'm hoping to do that probably in the month of July.
Okay, thank you, Justin. On to us. Does anybody have anything they would like to announce or discuss? Tom?
One thing, the community television channel, again this year came down to the zoo store. I know They help promote the zoo itself, and they were in the zoo store the other day. Unfortunately, the two girls that are, one the treasurer and one the vice president, they never want to be on cam, so this ugly guy's got to be on there and scare everybody away. But we would like to thank, Brianna was down, and they help a lot promote the zoo store, so they've been very helpful.
Thank you, Tom. And then I would just like to mention, Tom did mention Zoo Fest. He saw these beautiful brochures. Whoever did these, awesome. Yeah.
I didn't,
Yeah.
I paid
Yeah.
someone to do that.
All right, and that's a Saturday, don't forget, 11 to 2. Oh, I'm sorry, a week from Saturday, June 18th. I'm really losing it today. And then we do have a free Vox concert at Columbia Park on Saturday. They welcome Michelle Malone and special guest Rachel Kilgore for an evening of music outdoors on Saturday. That show starts at 6. For anybody who hasn't been to a Columbia Park show, they do suggest a donation of $10. It's not required, but it's nice to give to the cause. I know that Vox is trying to get their own venue downtown in the future. And of course, you're encouraged to bring your own basket of snacks and beverages, along with a lawn chair or a blanket. So, with that, we can move on. Our next meeting is scheduled for Thursday, July 14th at 5:30. Sound good? Let us know if you can't make it. I think we can keep that date for now. On to item 7. Anybody like to offer a motion?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Jane? Motion by Jane, second by Ally.
I know,
To
we did-
adjourn.
we
All
got
in
it
favor?
down.
Aye. Opposed? We are adjourned.